But at that same time, I basically started taking UCB classes.
What?
Because
when, how?
that onion job was so, it was really gnarly. It was really hard. And I was young. And it was like really demanding hours.
Hours-wise.
It was just a lot. And I a lot of my friends from grad school had moved away because not a lot of people stayed. And it was just like, kind of an isolating time in the way that I think a lot of people have in LA. It's very easy to suddenly be like, oh, I'm like a person who gets up and I get in my car and I drive and I sit at a desk. And I had, for a lot of that, I didn't really have anybody in the office that I worked with. It was just me.
Right.
And so it's just that thing where you kind of feel this monotony of a bubble around you.
Especially you, a social butterfly. You need to let your wings fly.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And so for me, I think, and I had friends at that point who had taken UCB classes and I knew UCB and I had seen shows there. And I was just like, I think I'm just going to put myself out there and meet some
Good
people.
For you.
But it was way more on a social level.
Absolutely.
You know?
I have a buddy in DC who's kind of in that, what you just described. He was like, I'm going to take an improv class. And he just did it. He thought it was great. And he met some people. And I was like,
I push it on everybody. Whether you ever want to write or perform, and I'll get very culty UCB about it, but to me and for me, it literally introduced me to the person I just married and all of my best friends. And it changed my life. It is the hub of my universe.
Yeah.
It is the center of my life.
Right.
And so, but it truly came from just saying hey, I'm going to put myself out there and do something really scary.
yeah.
Not because I think I'm funny and I want to be a star.
Right.
And for me, it was just I took a class at Johnny Meeks, who's incredible. And
He's been on the podcast. He's great.
he's the best. He's the very best. And
I'm finally taking a class with him soon.
yeah.
I used an intern credit that expired and I still used it.
Don't out yourself.
They don't keep track of that. It's hilarious.
You know what? I do have to make a call to Beth Appel when I get out of here, but
Oh, shit.
it's unrelated. It's unrelated. It's unrelated. But I really push it on people because I think it's in our adult lives, we never really we go so far out of our way to not embarrass ourselves.
Right.
Obviously, because it's embarrassing. And then your first improv class is just sort of almost constant embarrassment.
Right.
So you're just basically learning how to ride a bicycle in front of people.
Yeah.
And it's so foreign and crazy. and I'd never done something because I'd never taken classes.
You hadn't performed or anything.
And so to me, it was this joyful, crazy door opening into a universe I had not really ever been in. And I felt smarter and quicker. And I just felt something that I had never experienced before.
Right.
And so I signed up for another class and I signed up for another class. And it was one of those things where I never really had designs of being a performer.
Right.
It was truly for me, I felt I was a better version of myself.
Yeah, and you wanted to open your world up.
And I kept meeting people, and I met my first indie team, and we started practicing every week, and that was its own social network for me suddenly, and it was just sort of this Lincoln logging of just a world opening, and it was so effortless.
Right.
It was not, the actual work of learning improv was wildly challenging,
of course.
and to me still is, but I think the way that UCB, the kind of smoothness with which you can kind of become a part of that community was just so, it was so welcoming and beautiful in this real way. And also there were real things that I could notice in terms of, and this is why I encourage a lot of women to take UCB classes or anything like it, because I suddenly noticed that I was more confident with my ideas, especially in meetings and in social settings, when it would be a lot of men, I was so much less afraid of the sound of my own voice or my own jokes.
Right.
And that was totally because of UCB classes.
Absolutely. When I first moved here, I knew one person, a buddy's ex.
Yeah.
So I signed up for improv, and that's where I've met everybody.
Isn't it crazy?
Yeah. I know Mary Holland, when she moved out here, she was on the podcast. She talked about how she was in a room alone and she took improv and that changed her world.
Oh, it's that thing where, but it is though, everyone, I think so many people have that story and it's why I'm so obsessed with UCB at my core, and I've really almost embarrassingly so never reached beyond it, because it's not only to me the strongest program with to me taste wise, what lines up most with me, but it's also just this place. It's a tangible place,
right?
And I think, and to good and bad, I know for some, there's also the feeling that like for some people, and especially as the scene has gotten a lot bigger, it's easy to just participate essentially in the social part and like forget that like you're trying to move towards things. For a lot of people, like you come out here to be a writer performer, and I think you can like ease into the comfort of the scene and forget that you are like here to learn how to do something and get really good and then go off and do it. But I think for me, because I didn't approach it in that way, and it was always this sort of like, it was an outlet.
Yeah.
I got kind of like the best deal, you know, where I was like, this rules. I get to do comedy. I'm learning how to be funny. I'm figuring out my voice. I'm getting really confident, and I'm meeting a million people, but it's not necessarily intersecting with like my professional anxieties
your
and
day-to-day.
fears. Yeah.